Okay, wonderful. Uh, a very warm good afternoon and good morning, depending upon the time zone you are in. So if you are in West Coast, a very warm good morning. But if you are in East Coast, a very warm good afternoon. I'm really happy to start this panel discussion with amazing entrepreneurs and leaders like you today. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you for taking out time today and would like to begin with a formal introduction of our panelist today. So let me begin with Shao. Shao Yang is the founder at Tailory New York. Shao is passionate for fashion and tailoring, and that has led her through the fashion design program at Parsons, after which she had done a great work in custom tailoring, fashion designing, fashion styling, and brand development. She has worked on so many different projects with Sean Connery, Cary Grant, as well as the modern day 007 Daniel Craig. And she considered like those are her style inspiration. And she has over 15 plus years of experience in custom tailoring. Shao, welcome to the panel discussion.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Uh, Next, we have Leslie Fong. Leslie is the CEO and founder at Venim. Leslie is a brand marketeer and a merchandiser specializing in online apparel and accessories. Leslie has a decade of experience working in startups and dynamic business environment. Leslie identified herself as perfectionist, pragmatist, and process oriented, and she has a background in creative side of things. Leslie has been featured in the Class, which is an online blog dedicated to fashion and upcoming designers. Leslie, welcome to the panel discussion.
Thanks, Kuldeep, and hey, everybody. Nice to be here today.
Welcome. Then we have Aras with us. Aras is the CEO at Christy Dawn. Aras is an experienced leader with a demonstrated history of working in apparel and fashion industry. He is skilled in advertising, sales, and strong business development. Aras has done his MBA focused in marketing from University of California, the Palmer School of Business. And Aras and his partner Christy started Christy Dawn together in the summer of 2013, and what's like a side project which turned into something very big. And their mission is to dress the world in beauty, one dress at a time. And they want to bring in harmony with the work that they are doing in the world of fashion. Aras, welcome to the panel discussion.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So I have this one question that I would like to begin today's panel discussion is the purpose behind your story, the purpose behind your brand, and which is the single most important thing that defines how big your brand can be. So what is your purpose? I would like to start this question maybe with Leslie, if you can start. Go ahead.
Sure, yeah. Purpose is certainly the reason why we started Venim. And when I say we, I'm referring to my co-founder, Casey Houchin, and myself. And as much as I'd like to say that starting a fashion brand was truly because of inspiration, that wasn't exclusively the story. It wasn't just that we loved fashion. It wasn't just that we are like extremely West Coast girls. So we really love denim jackets in the denim category. But it was also born a lot out of frustration. It was because all of the fashion brands, fast tech companies, just previous employers that we worked for, were not doing enough in terms of sustainability. And so it definitely got to a point where after not only knowing about all of the things that were not being done right in the fashion industry and its effects on the environment, not just knowing about it, but witnessing it firsthand, it definitely bubbled up to the point that we kind of couldn't take it anymore and couldn't be proud to work for these former companies. And so our purpose really is to make denim as sustainable as we possibly can. It's why our jackets are made out of upcycled designer denim. and why we're also looking at using repurposed and post-consumer materials for literally everything from the beginning to the end of our product supply chain. So yeah, sustainability is definitely the purpose, but also celebrating uniqueness and kind of bringing slow fashion back into the limelight.
Excellent. I believe that's a very, very strong vision and a mission, I believe, that you have behind starting up. And I think that's really going to help your brand in connecting with the audience. Sustainability is one of the single most important thing that has come up in the last decade, and brands are really, really becoming more careful about everything that they're doing, like the best practices that they can have and to make their brand sustainable, and people resonate with that. That's commendable, Leslie. Excellent. I would like to move to Shao. Shao, what is your purpose, and how you established your brand?
So the Tailory is a custom clothing company. So we make mostly custom suiting and other apparel. And like Leslie, this came out not just because I love fashion and I love suiting, but it really did come out of frustration as well in the menswear space and in the fashion space in general. So I worked in menswear for many, many years, especially in suiting. And I've always wanted to create a space that was more inclusive and more diverse. And I really felt that there was a market for suiting that went beyond just suiting up men. And after pitching that idea to a lot of different brands and a lot of different companies that I worked for, everybody told me the same thing, that there was no space in fashion for this, and nobody saw a need. So I felt like the only way for me to create this is if I started it myself. So I did quit my job and traveled to Asia, did all sourcing and sustainability and ethically producing the goods was also important to me. So after I found the right partnership, I was able to create the Tailory New York, and it's really about creating clothing that is affirming to the wearer, which I do every day.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I think a lot of research has gone into when you started. I believe that's amazing, and I think that might have set the foundation, because I think if the foundation is strong and the purpose is strong, it's really going to be useful for the brand to grow. I would like to move to Aras. Aras, what is your thought on the purpose for your brand?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess I would take a step back and say that I've experienced, this is not the first business that I've run, and I've had a lot of failure in starting businesses. And one of the things that I learned is that when you start a business, it's hard. There's a lot of no's, there's a lot of failure. And if you don't believe deeply in what you're doing, it's really hard to keep going. And creating a successful business is a lot like finding a needle in a haystack and what keeps you going. And so before I can ask the purpose of what's the purpose of the business, I think what's my purpose in general, right? Like that's a really important question for me in order to keep going. And my wife and I have 2 small children, and even though we didn't have children when we started, we do now. I think my purpose is to live in harmony with the planet and to rediscover these old ways of being that we have kind of fallen by the wayside in the name of consumerism and capitalism. And how do we rediscover these places in ourselves that are wild? And then when we apply that to business, right? Like, so we have this dress company, and Christy and I didn't start out as activists or environmentalists at all. It was, she could make beautiful dresses and she loved the dresses. And so we said, all right, well, if we're going to make beautiful dresses, how do we make them in a way that works for us? And so that means like having them made here domestically, having them made in our own city. And then what fabrics do we use? And as we started to research textiles and that manufacturing process, we knew we didn't want to be a part of I'm sure you already well know just how intensely extractive the conventional textile industry is. And So we were able to hang our hat on dead stock. We were able to use dead stock, and that answered a lot of questions, right? It one, economically made a lot of sense because we were small and there was no minimums on dead stock. But also we weren't contributing to this incredibly toxic footprint that the textile industry has. We were just using what was left over, and that was awesome. That was great, and our customers really responded, and we told that story, and just as much as we've informed our business has informed us. And so as we saw this success in telling this story of using dead stock, we asked ourselves, how could we go further? How could we be more in alignment with what people are asking for? And it's amazing to hang your hat on the idea that, but what's more amazing is hanging your hat on the idea that you're actively part of a solution. And so rather than simply relying on the excess of a very toxic system, we asked ourselves, could we be part of an alternative supply chain that is not extractive, that's not sustainable, it's rather regenerative, right? So like to take a step back on sustainability, like, do we want to sustain the wildfires? Do we want to sustain the pandemic? That's what sustainability means. It means that we'll get more of what we're doing now. So sustainability is not enough. Like, we can't be sustainable. We have to regenerate. And how do we do that? And so last year, we leased 50 acres of land with our partner in India, Oshadi, and we're growing our own cotton regeneratively, and we're growing the indigo and the vegetables that will be used to vegetable dye these fabrics and weave these fabrics. And we're using hand looms. And so we've kind of rediscovered these systems that have been in place for thousands of years, but have been thrown by the wayside in the name of efficiency and profit. And so this for us is how we're currently expressing this desire to connect with the wild and to be more in balance. And it's ever evolving and changing. And I could go into like our intersectionality and the places that we're learning that we get to move into those places, but I think that's a good start.
Wow. Excellent, man. I mean, so it's a very, very thoughtful thought that you have there, and the way you are trying to kind of connect with the various stakeholders. I mean, right from the sourcing till the end consumer, you have so many processes that are going in there, and you have thought of everything. So this is amazing, man. I'm so glad to know this, and that the way you are thinking about sustainability and into your brand itself, which is commendable. Excellent. I would like to move to the next set of questions to the fellow panelists, which is around consumers. Today's consumers are extremely aware, and they learn a lot about brands through social media and the different channels. So typically, how do you identify who is your buyer? How do you define your buyer persona? So if Leslie, if you can share some light on it.
Sure, yeah. And I should start with a disclaimer that Venim is a very young company. We were technically founded in November of 2018, but we spent the entire year of 2019 just working on product development. So really our product's only been in market since March of this year, and it hasn't been the most fortunate year to be launching product in the market. So we're still figuring it out, is all I'm really trying to say here. And therefore, because we are still technically, when it comes to product being in market, so fresh, our customers defined by who we are hoping they are going to be, and not necessarily who they're panning out to be. We're still in the learning process there. So we set out to essentially create a very commonly and rather iconic category of product. I should note that we exclusively make denim jackets. We just set out to do one thing really, really well before we expand our assortment in any sort of way. And excuse me. Yeah, so what we were noticing is that while there are really major companies, Levi's, for example, that are already really focused on the denim jacket category, there was a really big gap in the market for the streetwear community. Basically, when I decided that I wanted to wear a denim jacket for the first time, which actually took 20 to 25 years of my life, I knew that I wanted something that was like cooler and also a little bit nicer than sort of like that $95, even $70 price point that you might get from a major supplier. But then I noticed that the jump to something really, really special was like a $1,500 off-white jacket or a $3,000 Gucci jacket. There was this really big gap in between. So
Right.
I wanted something that had that streetwear aesthetic, but also that came in at a price point that was somewhere in the middle. And so we positioned ourselves to really be focused towards the streetwear community. We found that there wasn't anything there. So the way that we've started defining our customer is gravitating towards streetwear, also having values that align with things that are a little bit more progressive, such as genderless clothing. Right, there are definitely categories where that makes sense. I don't think denim jackets is one of them. So we're really trying to move away from that. By accommodating that, we have also developed our own size ranges that are completely unisex and numeric. So we're looking at a combination of people that appreciate streetwear, that love denim as much as we do. A lot of people do, though, on a global scale. That share our values of just genderless in general, and just being progressive in that note, and just want things to be made a better and more ethical way. So we're actually trying to target those people and appeal to them, rather than put product in market and see what the profile is coming out to be of people that are engaging with and purchasing our product. Not because we want to do it that way, but because that's sort of how we need to start being such a young company. Wow. I hope that answers your question.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think so. You have identified the important gap there, and you're kind of it's a niche that you have identified for yourself, and like the category that you are entering into. Yes, definitely there is a competition, but you are able to kind of figure out a way to distinguish your brand from what's already there. So which is amazing. Great. How about you, Shao? What is your target audience typically like? What is their buyer persona?
So we work mostly with people in the LGBTQ community, and being a custom clothing company, that was really important to us, because like I said, I started the company because I wanted to create a safe space for people to find clothing that they identify with and that is affirming to their identity. And that's not something they can find just shopping off the rack. So we have a lot of clients who identify as gender fluid or non-binary, and suiting is what speaks to them and to their expression. But if they're going shopping off the rack, it's very hard for them, because they don't really know if they should be shopping off the menswear rack or the women's wear rack, and it's neither nor, so for them to be able to walk in and work with us and find something that is 100% who they are is kind of what we do, and that's what they're looking for. And everything that we do, from marketing campaigns, editorials, just simple Instagram posts, topics that we talk about, it all involves around being free and being yourself, and gender is removed from a lot of, basically just gender is removed from everything that we do. So that's kind of our core mission. And I think when we started the company, it really spoke to people that really needed something like this. And we have kind of garnered their attention, and we have them as our consumers. And we're continuing to grow that by offering more than just suiting.
Amazing. So it's like giving that identity or giving that confidence to the community. It's a very strong mission, and I believe people resonate with that thing when a brand empowers them, like big brands, how they're able to connect with the audience, like Nike or Apple, or they all connect with the consumers at an emotional level, and they're solving their problems, and they're able to give the kind of identity. And that's how people resonate. So I think, Shao, you touched a very nice point there, that how you are kind of connecting with that general neutral thing, which is really, really important, and to make diversity as a single most important thing for humanity, because all of us are so different and unique, and all of us have to kind of identify ourselves and to make ourselves feel comfortable. And I think clothing is that one thing which is the single most sacred thing, I believe, which kind of defines fashion. Fashion means what makes you comfortable. Fashion means what defines your identity. So that's an excellent thought that you shared there. Amazing. Aras, you have been in this fashion business, and you kind of have a very, very thoughtful vision about how you are doing things. And what are some of the engagement strategies that you have for your business to connect with your target audience? How do you engage with your consumers?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I would start by saying, like, for us, fashion is the carrot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think of Christy Dawn as a fashion company.
Mm-hmm.
I think of Christy Dawn being in the business of transformation,
Mm-hmm.
and fashion is the carrot that pulls people in, right? Like, we have chambers of cool and
Mm-hmm.
what's considered cool.
Yeah.
I think that we have this wonderful opportunity where we are considered cool. So can we make community cool? Can we make real connection cool? Can we make intimacy cool? And so fashion's the carrot, though, right? It's like, if I were to give you a chocolate chip cookie and I didn't tell you anything about it and it was delicious, you'd want another one. And then if I told you, guess what, that chocolate chip cookie was vegan and gluten-free, you'd be like, wow, unbelievable. Maybe I can eat vegan and gluten-free and not have to sacrifice. The same with our dresses, right? Like, we have to make our dresses as visually appealing as a fast fashion house, as a big fashion house, and so that we can draw people in. And then after that, it's how can we begin to get the people that are in to see how beautiful they are and how beautiful life is. And so we've done some really cool things over the course of the years. We always like to give little gifts. It doesn't always happen, but like once we gave away 5,000 to have mostly female-bodied customers, and we recognize that perhaps the greatest cycle in all of life is the moon cycle, and how can we support women and women's health? And so we gave away moon cups, and you didn't have to buy anything. In fact, we paid for shipping, and sometimes we have like jade rollers that we give with the dresses that no one knows they're going to get them. And in the next batch of shipments, please don't spoil this, but we're giving away like produce bags, organic cotton produce bags. So when people go to the store, they're going to use plastic. So we do these little things where we're really trying to point more towards like, hey, like, you're amazing. Take good care of yourself. You're worth it. And like, let's get our hands dirty. Let's get in the soil. Let's get into life. And so in that way, these are some of the ways that we try to attract our customer. You know, I think like the people that already they're consuming, of course, that's a customer that we love, that we have. Like, if those are the only people we're talking to, if that's our echo chamber, we're not doing our job. It's how do we get people that think that sustainability or regenerative living requires a sacrifice that they wouldn't like, and how do we turn that conversation to, wow, look at what the gifts are when you begin to live like this. And so we are looking for people that maybe wouldn't consider themselves environmentalists, or wouldn't consider themselves conscious livers, and that's a weird word, conscious, lifestyle leaders. And how do we get them involved, and like, how do we inspire them to see the beauty in what they are and the magic and the power they have?
True. I think those little things matter. And I believe what you just mentioned about how you send out those bags to your consumers, or those little things actually can make a huge difference in how your brand can bring about the transformation that the brand is envisioning for itself. And in the long run, consumers have the most strong brand recall because of all such small activities that brands are able to do for them without expecting anything. That's amazing. I'm so happy that this is a trait that probably brands can have. And the whole way you have thought of it is kind of wonderful and cool. Excellent. I would like to make this next question for Leslie. Leslie, you are like a growing brand and you have a long way to go. And so for you, what is your vision for your brand for the next 5 years? Where do you want to see your brand in the next 5 years? How do you want your brand to be perceived by the consumers?
Yeah. I mean, I already mentioned that we are targeting the streetwear category, and it goes a little bit deeper than just saying streetwear doesn't have denim jackets and it's not coming in at a certain price point. It's also because streetwear, I think, out of all of the categories, which I understand that there's a lot of mixed genres going on right now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But streetwear is probably one of the most egregious when it comes to waste. I think that there's a bit of a sort of a deliberate defiance against environmentalism up until recently. So I think just the 5-year vision is really just to not prove, but support the idea that ethically produced clothing doesn't have to look like, for lack of a better word, granola.
Yeah.
That it can run with the bigger players that maybe aren't prioritizing sustainability, or like you already mentioned, dead stock, Aras, like any sort of ethical or socially responsible production.
Yeah.
We can still run with those companies and be as big of a brand, and be as cool on the street and be as influential, and simultaneously be putting in the effort and compromising in some ways in order to put a product out that we're proud of, that's better for the environment. By no ways the best for the environment. I think the best thing we could all do is like not put anything else in the world at all, or do what Aras is doing and try and make something that is actually like carbon negative. So yeah, I think the vision is just to say, hey, like this category and this type of product can be something that you vote for with your wallet, that's doing something better for the environment, but you can also look dope at the same time. That's a good 5-year goal. Yeah.
That's excellent, and that's a very good thought that you shared there. And it's all about consumers are able to connect with you very easily. They learn about the problem that you are solving, and in the consumers are nowadays the amount of information that they can learn about a brand, it's very quick, and the way they form their perceptions. So if they learn about what the brand stands for, they really they connect with the brand, and they become like your lifetime consumers, and that's going to help the brand in the long run. Excellent. Leslie, and one more point that you shared about like how you are kind of finding that gap. You found that gap and you are trying to address that gap, and at the same time your consumers are already buying, but you're trying to create that unique price point, and that can become a key factor for your business. I really like that what you mentioned earlier. Shao, there's one question that when you started doing this custom tailoring for your consumers, what are some of the challenges that you faced while kind of setting up your business, or how did you overcome it?
There's a lot. Finding the right partner is always the hardest thing, because you want to make sure you're producing the best product that is also sustainable and ethically produced. So I had to pretty much meet with a lot of different manufacturers and go there and see it for myself. And suiting is it's a little bit harder, just because there's a lot of intricacies in the making of the suiting, and then you have to create the best fit, but not a general fit. You have to create the best fit for each individual client. So finding out finding out the best manufacturer to partner with to produce the goods, but also finding the right patterns to make, not templates, but to kind of streamline the whole custom making process was probably the biggest challenge, because we have to produce it fast, but we also have to produce it at the right price point, and it has to fit individual client bodies, right? So we're not grading one particular template. So those were hard in the beginning, but once I found the right partners, it was pretty easy from then on. And just meeting with, because we do custom, meeting with different clients every single day, that gave us a lot of knowledge on fittings and what silhouettes works best for different body types.
It's 1 o'clock.
Sorry, our computer likes to announce the time. And like what fabric works, so we've gathered a lot of intel just by working with clients every single day. So I think we had the hardest time in the beginning, and we've overcome a lot of our obstacles now. And I think we're at a really good place where we're just pretty much just growing what we already offer.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I think that's an excellent point that you shared there. Like, how did you manage? I think, yeah, the beginnings are hard, but you kind of found your way. And now that you have like processes and your partners that you found out, I think that's amazing, because with the right partners, your business can scale up pretty easily. Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah. Aras, the last 5 to 6 months have been extremely challenging for the entire apparel and fashion industry, and because of the whole pause that the whole world has experienced. Uh, how did you kind of how did your brand manage the supply chain disruptions and the logistics, which is the key to the growth and the success of a business? How did you manage that part, supply chain disruptions and logistics?
I guess the short answer is poorly. We managed it poorly, and we have our own factory here in Los Angeles. In fact, our offices and our factory are one and the same. A big 12,000 square foot facility, which is great because obviously we have relationships with all of our dressmakers, and you know, when I walk into the office, I walk past the factory floor first and get to say hello to the team and all that. Yeah. But we were able to pivot from making dresses to making masks almost immediately, which was not only helpful for the community, but it was also helpful for us as well. Yeah. And so that was really beneficial for the company. But given that we had pivoted to only making masks because that was an essential business, and you know, I think my first concern was when we started was like, we have this team of dressmakers who rely on these, you know, wages. And how do we keep them employed? Yeah. And not shut the door. And you know, I think this is like any business owner feels the weight of this. Is like, you establish these real relationships, they feel like family, and things don't go the right way economically, then all of a sudden, you know, it's hard not to shoulder the feeling of like, wow, there's all these families that rely on the success of this business. True. And so the question was, how can we keep the dressmakers, you know, employed? And masked was this great answer. And they weren't making dresses for quite a while, but because we had masks, we were one of the first to market with masks, it also increased exposure for us. So we sold out of almost all of our dresses as well. And we, you know, we had these incredible months of sales, which was amazing for us as a company. With masks and with dresses, but by the time like August rolled around, we actually ran out of dresses for the most part. And so we've it's all learning and figuring out how to manage the supply chain, and obviously not sitting on too much. And we, you know, the good thing for our business is that we don't ever manufacture more than we're gonna sell. Like, we always sell out eventually. We've just sold out way too fast, to the point where we actually decided to hire a planner because it was just we were missing the mark so poorly. And of course, a lot of that's contingent on what's available in the market with dead stock. And we, you know, we're coming to market with our Farm to Closet collection, which will give us, here's the really cool thing. I just have to share it. I think this is so cool. When we started our business, dead stock made the most sense, not just environmentally, but it made the most sense economically. There was no sacrifice that had to be made, except that we had to go dig and find these jewels, right? Like, we would, you know, go through pallets and pallets of dead stock fabric, but it was fun. It was a treasure hunt. But economically, it made the most. And now that we've moved over to this, you know, we're transitioning into regeneratively grown cotton that we grow ourselves. It's of course better for the environment. Of course, it's, you know, it's got a positive environmental impact, but it also makes more sense economically now because we're at scale. And so, like, shooting a dress that we've made 10 of, eventually there's just no way you're going to find an economy of scale there. But now that we can grow our own cotton, and we can make 3,000 units if we wanted to of a single dress, not that we're going to be at that number yet, but it allows for us to scale as well. And I think this is like a really, really important thing that I feel like I want the world to know, is that when you take a step towards being more in alignment with the natural ways of the world, it's not like you have to sacrifice. Of course, some things won't happen the way, like, if you're not, you know, choose the print, but there's a whole nother gift there. And so I think there's this fallacy that like to live in alignment with the planet means to sacrifice, but there's so many gifts there. And I think that's like the most important thing. And then to answer your question around operations, yeah, we have a lot to learn about supply chains in terms of managing the amount of inventory we have.
That's, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the points that you shared, like about making sure that the wheel keeps on running, no matter what the challenge is, and the way you got to pivot and like make sure that everyone who is the internal stakeholder is kind of associated with the business is still there on the board and kind of keep moving. That's amazing. I believe empathy, this is what drives today's world. And I think a lot of brands have shown that kind of spirit and enthusiasm of making sure that they're able to take care of the internal stakeholders and figure out a solution for it. Excellent point there. I would like to move to Leslie. Leslie, you are a growing company and like you have a long way to go, and like you spend an entire year for product development, and now that you finally have your product in the market. So what is your marketing strategy? Like, what is your marketing plan to kind of, where do you want to spend your advertising dollars on in order to make sure that you are able to kind of acquire those early adopters of the consumers for your product, because the early adopters become your ambassadors, and that's how you scale up your business. So what are some of the channels that you're looking to spend your marketing dollars on? What is your marketing strategy for the next 1 or 2 years?
Yeah, it's a funny question given this year, because everything that we thought we could rely on has been entirely compromised by the economy, by people's general fears about, you know, the unpredictability of what's to come next, and also sort of the lack of demand of fashion products. I understand that like e-commerce as a whole is killing it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that when you drill down into specific categories within e-com as a vertical is you know, that they're all doing well, or that it entirely makes sense for somebody to spend $300 on a customizable denim jacket right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wish I could give really great advice on how people can grow their customer base in this current environment. But I will say that nothing, when it comes to fashion, it's just so visual that you kind of can't avoid the usual suspects. You have to have that presence on Instagram still, as much as we resent it, or at least I do. Same thing with Facebook. While that's obviously the audience is migrating from Facebook to Instagram and now Instagram to TikTok, it's still the obvious platforms when it comes to social media, and obviously YouTube. I do think that from a media perspective, while I'm on that subject, video really is the future. You know, not only from just like having a presence with video media, but literally transforming your online platform if you're a direct-to-consumer brand to accommodate video, whether it's, you know, a model that's walking instead of a static image, whether it's your homepage banners or utilizing video so that there's movement. It's very clear that type of engagement is what people are going to become very used to consuming. So if you're trying to kill it online, which is one of the only channels that you can like do well on right now, then that's going to be very important. And then in terms of new customer acquisition, I mean, we're testing out a referral program / loyalty program that, you know, I can't really say whether the results of that are going to be fruitful yet. And we were going to really just have boots on the ground. Kind of our original strategy for 2020 was actually to partner with a lot of the music festivals and music related events going on the West Coast and then gradually across the country, because we have also targeted a customer that is very involved in the musical community, whether they're industry people or they're just fans. And then we also have a lot of ties with people that work in the music industry, especially down in LA. So the original strategy was really to have presence at events like Coachella, and Outside Lands up here in San Francisco, and partnering with specific venues and making sure that when certain artists that are very influential in terms of what they wear and the brands that they represent when they're performing, make sure we have a presence at those events. So all of this is up in the air now. And to be completely transparent, a lot of it doesn't feel like it's working at the moment. And I'm trying to be forgiving to myself, be forgiving to the company for things not working in the current climate. And so who knows, like maybe we'll take this strategy that was originally intended for 2020 and try to implement it in 2021. Yeah. But in the meantime, I think it really is just maintaining that presence on social media and same with advertising, same platforms.
That's true.
Yeah, and focusing on video.
That's true. I mean, because these are those times where you can build your presence. I mean, the online presence defines where the brand recall is going to happen or not. Because I think in fashion, there can be two types of buyers. One who can be impulsive buyers, and one who can be like research-oriented buyers, like those who spend a ton of time looking at their smartphone and kind of researching about what they're going to buy, and then finally going to make their purchase decision after a week or so. So I think this is the best time where brands can build that presence. And I think video, that's a great thought that you have there. And I think there's a long way to go. And video is, I noticed that Instagram and the way TikTok probably, because I think our consumers are omni-channel, they are everywhere. And how you can connect with them is the key. So maybe a TikTok video is going to do a different thing versus an Instagram feed is going to do a different thing for a brand. So I think, yeah, that's what you mentioned. Video is a great pointer that I picked up. Great. Shao, you are into the custom tailoring business, and with the current pandemic where definitely like the social distancing norms and the way things are happening, how do you think, what kind of tech do you think will help you? Like, do you think of, because if the consumers can't come to you, like for measurement, how are you going to help them? Like, because I was having this question with one of the speakers earlier in one of the, like the conference calls, and he mentioned like how they are able to use augmented reality for their eyewear brand. And I was pretty intrigued by the thought that, especially in apparel, even in online apparel, how that can make a huge difference where, like if your smartphone camera can just take accurate measures and then give that back to the merchant, and then the merchant can make sure that the product that you are going to send them is the perfect fit for them. And so I think in your business, it's like applicable. So have you given any thought to it? Like, what are your thoughts?
Hey, Shao, I think you may still be muted.
Muted now?
It's okay.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. So with the pandemic, it really did force us to kind of rethink our business strategies for 2020. For the first part, like in January and February, and what we had planned, we were traveling. Basically to every major city to offer our services to people that don't have access to inclusive suiting. Yeah. When the pandemic hit, we were really stuck. And that actually forced us to really think about a new strategy. And we were always thinking about doing something where we can measure our clients and consult with them virtually. We just didn't know which platform and which system was best. So we actually worked with our manufacturer to come up with, it's still in its early stages and we're already using it, but there's still a lot of things we need to improve on and learn. But we were able to create a program where we can take the measurements of our clients with just 2 photos, and then we consult with them via Zoom or FaceTime, which, you know, clients have, we found to really love doing that because they can get pretty much the same service they would get if they were in our showroom, but in the comforts of their living room. Yeah. You know, and the only drawback is instead of 1 fitting where we can get it absolutely perfect, we probably have to do 2 or 3. So the wait time is a little bit longer than if they were able to see us. But overall, I think this is probably something that's going to stay around. So we're constantly gathering more data on the virtual fittings and working on the factory to kind of perfect this system that we have going. So, I mean, I hope to be able to travel again, see clients in person, but for now, the virtual is the way to go.
Wonderful. So you found your way. I think that's creativity. And
well, we were forced to find this way. We didn't have any other way to do it. So
that's because I think these are those times where I think it's the creativity that's going to help the brand, because so ultimately the consumers are the kings, and we have to reach out to them and make sure that what they're looking for, they're getting what they're paying for ultimately at the end of the day. And I think I think technology is an enabler, and it's just a matter of time that it will become more and more convenient for all these things will become more convenient over a period of time, as the stores will get access to these technologies. Like smartphones 20 years back was like, yes, they were no one could think, and now they are like so powerful that you can do everything on them. So it's just like that. So I think that's happening in the world of fashion. I would like to move to Aras and ask this question about now that you have established your brand and like all the processes, and you were kind of there, but how are you planning on kind of retaining your consumers, like the end consumers, because fashion is a competitive business, and how are you trying to kind of position yourself and kind of make sure that your consumers, you are able to derive the maximum lifetime value from your consumers? What are your thoughts on that, Aras?
Yeah, I mean, let's start with that last sentence. How are we able to derive the maximum lifetime value out of our consumers? And let's turn that around on its head. How are we able to give maximum value for the lifetime of our consumer, right?
Wow.
So that we're supporting our consumer, right? And so we all have to wear clothes. We all know that clothes don't last forever. Nothing lasts forever, but clothes, when they're worn a lot, they do tend to break down. We make our clothes in a way where they're designed to last a long time. Hopefully they can be passed down. But I would certainly think that we can support the environment. The environment can support us to have 1 or 2 or 3 pieces a year at least, right? And there's a big movement in health and wellness, right? Like, let's eat organic foods, let's eat wild foods, let's make sure what we're putting in our bodies isn't laced with chemicals. The largest organ in and on our body is our skin. And so now as a company, we're able to grow this cotton that's grown in an ecosystem where all the stakeholders win: the water, the soil, the air, the biodiversity, the farmer. And there's a resonance that happens when you work in this way. And so this cotton is grown this way, and then the vegetables that are used to yarn dye that fabric are also grown regeneratively. And so now we've hand woven that with like real human, paid human effort and skill, and then it's cut and sewn by people who are adequately compensated for their effort and their skill. And so when you put that all together, and then that goes on our skin, we adorn our body, we adorn this incredible magical thing called the body with this cloth. And that we as a brand can say like, hey, we've taken these steps to really ensure that what you're adorning yourself with has a resonance and a frequency that will support you just as much as we're asking you to support the rest of the system. So in that way, I think we're creating pieces that people will resonate with. And when it's time for another dress, or it's time for another top, or it's time for something else, like depending on the category, they're like, you know what, I really trust that Christy Dawn is thinking about this in a holistic way. And I think so in that way, like, how do we create more value? How can we create something that is going to be cherished and really tell the story around that in this like world of voices with social media? Everyone's got a microphone, everyone's got their own brand. How do we tell the story? And that's challenging, because it's like you can't just tell it once. You have to like continuously retell the story over and over as you get new people learning about your brand. But how can we tell a story that people recognize that like, hey, we really care? I would venture to say that in this time now, brands have more of a social responsibility than ever before.
That's true.
It's clear that politicians aren't going to answer the world's problems for us. It's
Yeah.
us. We're going to answer our own problems. Like we're waiting. It's like we're all waiting around for somebody to solve it. And it's like, well, then maybe we should just each start. And by having that commitment as the CEO of the brand and as the brand itself, like, hey, we're committed to answering these questions and to begin to look for solutions. People begin to build trust, and look, we're not perfect and we're going to make mistakes, and it's an ever unfolding learning. But I think that is how you maintain these relationships with your consumers, is that you're committed to constantly growing and learning and recognizing that, like, at the end of the day, all of humanity have the same basic needs: fresh air, fresh water, food, healthy food, and community. So how can we be part of that?
That's true. I'm really intrigued with the thought that you kind of put forward right from the very beginning, like where the cotton is coming and the way you are able to make sure that those stakeholders are being valued with the end product, because ultimately the consumers are going to buy it and wear it, may not be able to see from where it has come from, but I think the way you are bringing a change and touching those lives who are making that end product for the consumers it's an incredible thought process. And I think it's just a matter of telling that story. It's all about whether the consumers get to know from where their product has come from or what has gone inside it. I really like that, Aras. And I believe brands have a big role to play in the long run because they are the leaders. Because I have been reading a lot about what Everlane is doing, what Patagonia is doing, and like uh, I'm really happy that I got to learn about your brand as well and how you are kind of on the same line. I think if we have more and more leaders like you, I think the community as a whole, the fashion community and the apparel community will kind of evolve and kind of follow your footsteps. So I think in the long run, this is amazing because I think these small steps can make a big difference for the planet. Excellent. Uh, Leslie, the next question that I have for you is around uh, like how is your brand going to kind of make sure that the products that you are creating for them, uh, how do you think the consumers who are going to adapt, like what are some of the challenges that you may think that you are going to face in the next 1 year or 2 year? Because ultimately now that things have started moving, like people started traveling back again, so do you see where do you see would be where your brand can be in the next 1 year maybe, like and where do you want to kind of like where do you want to reach out to your brand? What channel do you think, Facebook or Instagram? Which one would be your most preferred channel, if I may ask? If you are to choose only one of them, what would that be?
Oh gosh. Well, they're
Because,
kind of one and the same at this point.
yeah,
Our
but
customer
still,
base is young. Yeah, our customer base is on the younger end. And so they tend to gravitate towards Instagram as a platform.
yeah,
And now we're starting to see TikTok as a platform. But I think for reasons that we haven't really figured out in terms of fashion consumption yet. If I understand your question correctly, I think it's kind of like, how are we going to adapt over the next 365 days
yeah,
as people are maybe prematurely trying to kind of navigate themselves back into a normal lifestyle?
yeah.
Is that sort of what you mean?
Yeah, because it's all about that brand presence that you have an excellent product which has ton of research has gone into it and it's ready, it's available, and because the buyers that you have are going to be unique, and it's all about how your brand can reach to them through the channel.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, one thing that we probably should have done a long time ago, and strictly for financial reasons, didn't do until now, was really work with a great PR agency that's going to get us placement that keeps us relevant throughout these times. It's interesting, even if you get placed on a celebrity at the moment, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
So I think that the best placement you could have gotten in 2020 was like somebody walking down a fake red carpet for the VMAs or something like that. At least in my category, it is. So yeah, I mean, I think staying relevant just continues to go back to aligning with people's values, which are not, they're progressive and they're changing and more people are adopting them, but they're not going to suddenly shift overnight in 1 year, right? So those values continue to be fewer, better things that are made a more ethical way. they continue to be progressive, you know, mindsets that don't believe in gender or, you know, don't believe in labels or love mixing genres. And they, you know, it continues to align with just the idea of sustainability and innovation and impeccable design, really, and all trying to do that just on a digital platform. But yeah, if I had to pick between two social media channels, I guess I'd gravitate towards Instagram.
Instagram, yeah, that's good. I believe, yeah, it's such a nice visual medium, and I have discovered so much on Instagram that like a Facebook feed has become so monotonous. I mean, it's kind of, you scroll down, but I think the visual medium kind of connects, and it's a great way to tell your story and make a space in the consumer's mind and the brand recall. I have discovered so many brands on Instagram that I thought, oh God, these brands are doing excellent work that I wasn't aware of. And I somehow started discovering about them, and that brand recall kept on happening. So yeah, I
I
think
will say that a strategy that I keep seeing being used by some brand founders is creating a community through Facebook groups and starting a conversation and creating loyalty and I guess oneness through those small groups is actually something that, like, I think Facebook tried to make happen a few years ago. Now it's actually working in their favor. And I do think that's an interesting prospect, because people are finally, you know, strangers are communicating by relating to the same values under this one brand. And so for that reason, I think Facebook is a really valuable platform.
Excellent. Wow. While we are coming into an end of this panel discussion, I would like to ask this last question to all of you, which is around for an advice that you would like to give to fellow entrepreneurs or people in the field of fashion, like businesses who are already running fashion business. What is that one piece of advice, or what is that one tip that you would like to share, which has worked for you, which may work for them as well, like something that can really change or help their brand in scaling up? Maybe I can ask Aras to kind of give his advice.
Yeah, I guess I would just say follow really what you're passionate about. I think that's the key, or else we're just going to continue to create things that we don't need or that are extractive. Like figure out what it is that you love and follow that. And that's that. No matter what you do, unless you get super lucky, like, you're going to have challenges along the way. And what will move you through those is your own passion and your belief in what you're doing. And so if it aligns with your kind of deeper purpose in life, you'll have a lot longer runway than you will if you're doing something you don't deeply believe in.
Wonderful, wonderful. Shao, one piece of advice?
I would say, you know, to stay true to the ethos of your brand and don't compromise. You know, as you get bigger, there might be, you know, you might be thinking that you need to make everyone happy, or you need to like deviate from your original voice to capture another audience. I would say just stay true to your voice, and, you know, you'll be successful that way, because that's why you started the brand. You know, and you're going to build a following, and those are the people that you want to build on. So
wonderful, wonderful. Leslie, from you?
Gosh, this is for anybody. It doesn't really matter if you're in fashion, but my number one piece of advice would just be, whatever it is, whatever you do, just sleep on it. If you tend to have an entrepreneurial spirit, you might also be pretty excitable, which means you might be a little bit trigger happy when it comes to making decisions. And when you're a decision maker at your company, you tend to feel a little bit of pressure to make quick, confident decisions. And, you know, if I could look back 2 years, it's just, I wish I would have slept on some things, because sometimes they find a way to resolve themselves overnight, and sometimes you find a way to resolve yourself overnight. And I think it's extremely healthy to practice that. So that's just life advice, I guess. I don't know.
Wow, amazing. I must say this has been an excellent panel discussion today, and all of you have really shared your thoughts and insights so nicely. And there's so many things to take away. I mean, as a takeaway, if I have to take from what Aras has mentioned about his purpose, about starting up and how he's involving all the possible stakeholders and how he's empowering them, and at the same time achieving his business objectives of running a sustainable business and having that strong purpose and a vision and a mission, kind of driving the growth for his business. And yeah, what Aras has mentioned, that passion in everything that we do, and that can really help. Shao, the point that you touched about stay true to what you do, and you cannot make everyone happy, so find your consumers in the right way. That's amazing. And Leslie, what Leslie has mentioned about right, like the amount of effort that she has put into the research, I think for finding that gap, finding that category that can make a big difference. That's amazing, because I think those are some of the things. I think the amount of time, it's like for going 2 step forward, you need to come back 2 step backwards so that you can take a pause, assess things, and then take that thoughtful decision, so that in the long run, everything can, you can achieve those end objectives. Because if we keep on doing the same thing over and over again, maybe we not get the result that we are looking for. But by figuring out creative ways, we can do so many things and accomplish so many things. And as a business, I think we are running a marathon, not sprint. So I still remember one of the quotes that Satya Nadella mentioned when he took over Microsoft. I think there's so many things to learn. So, and you may not know everything. So rather than saying know it all, say learn it all. So I think there's so much to learn from leaders like you. And I think the kinds of insights that you shared today will be really valuable for the attendees, as well as the people who are going to get a chance to listen to this panel discussion at a later stage. So I'm really happy to have all of you today. And once again, I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you on behalf of our organization Enalito for taking out time today and to participate in this panel discussion. I'll be in touch with you guys, and we'll be making this panel discussion available on all of our social media channels. And we'll be sharing it with you so that you can also share it forward and let the fashion community learn from all of you. So thank you so much once again, and you guys have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Shao.
everyone.
Thank you, Aras. Thank you,
Bye.
Leslie. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.